The further you go back in the time, the simpler the tools were, and the more manual the labor. A hunter-gatherer society was all about being on the move, gathering resources as they go along. But something happened when our early ancestors decided to settle down on one spot, and crops could be grown, and food became plentiful and predictable. It meant that the other tribe members could now focus in other trades and other professions. Over the years, tools have become better and better, and less people are required to produce the same amount of products. But what happens when everything becomes automated? Machines making machines. Is that possible? Is that what we want? Don't we need a job? Many of us find meaning in making a small part in a big world. But what happens when we don't need to make that small part? Well, I'll tell you. Food production was, and still is, the linchpin to any city, country, or society. No one cares how good your non-edible products are when you are hungry. We have gotten to the point where one person can farm 100 acres, or 100 cows, or 100 chickens all by themselves. All those people that were required in the past to work on food production are freed up to do other things. Some of them are working on the next generation of tools to free up even more people. But farming is not the only industry that's become more efficient or automated. In fact, everything has. The U.S. Civil War was about a lot of things. Slavery was only one small part of it. The cotton farmers of the South didn't want to free the slaves because they needed them to pick the cotton. If they were freed, then that means that the farmer would have to pay them, and thought that the cotton was going to be too expensive and that nobody would want their product. But something interesting happened, as we're all aware of at some level, even if we don't see it for what it is. Now that the labor costs were higher, people created tools to make the harvesting of cotton easier. Now, instead of needing 10 people per acre, you only needed 5. Your labor costs just dropped in half after you bought this particular tool. And then another tool comes out, then another. Then you notice that your required staff decreases every time you buy something new. The cotton plantation owner had no incentive to change or become efficient when there was no benefit for him. When facing large labor costs, innovation is what drives technology forward. Money for the innovator and savings for the user. This type of forces were at work back then, and they're still at work today. So what does it mean when we create driverless cars and we don't need professional drivers? Or retail stores as everything is online? Or no manufacturing assembly as robots build everything? What happens when everything becomes automated? Robots building robots, factories building factories. What happens when we get to the end? We have been conditioned to believe that we need a job, work all your life, so we can retire and do everything we couldn't do when we were younger. We also associate ourselves with the work that we do. If you ask someone what they do, they say, I'm a clerk. I'm a factory worker. I work for the city. We don't say things like, I like painting at home. I like garage sales. I like putting around the shop. These things mean something to us, but they're generally not who we say we are. Are we really happy delivering a box from point A to point B? What about making all those things you don't care about at the factory? Are you really excited about working in a fast food joint? The answer is not really. At best, it is a tolerable job, and you're just trying to make it until 5 o'clock. And thank God you get weekends off. I would suspect in the future we'll all be self-employed. We will still have to earn money. We will still have to buy things. And even though the automated factory is still making stuff, you don't own that factory. Someone else does. And they want to be paid for that. How are you going to make money? I would imagine that future generations will have to look inward and figure out for themselves what they want out of life. What is their passion? What gets them up in the morning? If they have a crappy job, it's because they created their own crappy job. What our children's children do in their lives will be whatever they want to make of it. In a world where there's no haveses or gottes, the biggest trick will be in people finding their individual meaning in their lives. I think the future sounds wonderful, but the challenges will be different. They always are. We cannot and should not cry for the disappearance of the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. It's not that we can't do these things, it's that we don't want to do these things. There will always be a premium from handmade stuff that people want to make, and people are proud to make. The driving force of our ancestors didn't disappear with robots that built everything. Remember, happiness is an inside job. But for now, I say goodbye, and may you have many happy thoughts until next time. Written, read, and produced by Larry Jenkins.